Welcome to the Residential Environmental Program Series. My name is Zoe Wyman. I will be your host and MC through our evening tonight. I've lived in Fort Collins for 12 years and I have just fallen in love with it. So I am so excited to share some of the little known spots and some of the popular places that you might enjoy. We have three speakers tonight. Myself, I'm Zoe Wyman. We have Laura Atwood from the Gardens on Spring Creek, and we have DK Kemp from Fort Collins Bike Program. Here's an overview of what we're going to be talking about. First, I like to start off by defining some terms. So I'm going to talk about, well, what is an environmental staycation? And then I'll talk about some general tips for how do you travel green. After that, we're going to hear from DK on cycling tips, routes, and destinations. And then we'll hear from Laura. Actually, I think we're going to switch those because Laura has her microphone on. After the break, I'll start up again with natural areas to visit. I have some museums to highlight, some restaurants, and some breweries. So are you ready for some staycation fun? So what is this thing we're talking about, an environmental staycation? There's a couple of points. It's a stay-at-home vacation. Places that I'm going to talk about, they're either in Fort Collins or pretty close by. Most are within, well, one is about a 45-minute drive away, but that's the farthest away. So close to home. I also chose things because of their environmental connection. So there's a lot of great things in Fort Collins that I'm not going to talk about because I didn't see a real direct environmental connection. So that's kind of the theme. Usually a staycation is easy on the budget, and gosh, who doesn't like that? And that's because you're not paying for lodging, you're not paying for a whole lot of transportation, and everything that I'm going to talk about tonight is under $5. The most expensive thing I'm going to talk about is $5. So it's really exciting, all the great stuff that's free in our town. And the idea is that it's just as fun and relaxing as a traveling vacation, but you get to be at home. What are some things you can do to make a green vacation? There's some general concepts to keep in mind. Just by staying at home, you're reducing one of your biggest environmental impacts, which is your transportation. Transportation is the single largest source of air pollution in the United States. And the EPA attributes the premature deaths of 64,000 people a year to air pollution. It's also a contributor to climate change. So if you're aiming to be environmentally friendly, this is a great place to start. Some things you can do on transportation is limit your driving. You can do that by going places that are nearby. You can link your trips. So instead of doing many short trips, do sort of a big circular route where you're linking your destinations. Carpooling, using public transportation, or riding your bike are great ways to limit your driving. Another surprising one is to inflate your tires. That's pretty easy. The average person who drives 12,000 miles a year on underinflated tires uses an extra 144 gallons of gas, and that could be $300 to $500. So just by keeping your tires inflated, you're not only saving gas, but you're also saving a lot of money. So that's something to keep on top of. The third point here, carbon offsets. Sometimes you can't avoid traveling and you need to fly somewhere or you need to drive somewhere. And one thing you can do is buy carbon offsets. And what this is you're giving money to an organization who is supporting carbon sequestration projects such as reforestation. So maybe they're planting trees. Maybe they're supporting methane digestion at a landfill. Maybe they're supporting renewable energy. And all of these things are preventing carbon from being released, and so it's a way to offset your emissions from flying or driving. There's lots of organizations that do carbon offsetting, and my only advice is to check to make sure that the organization you're supporting has been verified with a reliable source. Some other tips: you don't have to stay in a log cabin like this one at Bobcat Ridge to be environmentally friendly. For this staycation, you're staying at home, so you don't really need to worry about accommodations. But if you are traveling, here's a few tips. You can The place you're staying, you can ask them about what sorts of environmental practices they use. One common certification is called LEED, and this stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's a way for buildings to be environmentally friendly. They can earn points for saving energy, water efficiency, carbon dioxide reductions, indoor environmental quality, and stewardship of resources. So it's a flexible program where if you do a lot of one thing, you can do less of another thing, but they have gold, silver, and platinum certification for LEED buildings. So that's something to look for. There's also many certifications. I got kind of overwhelmed when I was looking this up online. There's Energy Star, there's Green Seal, there's Audubon's Green Leaf, there's a Green Hotels Association, there's a Travel for Good certification, there's a Green Globe certification. So I thought, oh my gosh, what am I gonna say? These are so hard to sort through. And so I decided, well, there's some common questions that you could ask of the place that you're staying. You could just ask, what environmental practices do you implement? Some things that specifically they might do, they might reuse their towels. What that means is if you're staying for several nights, instead of having your towels washed every day, you can leave them on the rack, and that way the hotel staff knows that you're gonna reuse those. That saves thousands of gallons of water every day, just that simple action of not having your towels or your sheets changed every day. If you're only staying one night, that doesn't really work, but something to keep in mind. There also might be other water conservation things that the hotel does, things like a low-flow shower head, a low-flow toilet, things like that that are just standard practice in their hotel. You might ask if there's recycling containers. I was in a hotel a couple of weeks ago. It had a trash can, and it was separated into two halves, and one was recycling and one was trash. I was very impressed that that was just a standard part of each room. You could ask them if they use glassware in their hotel. Sometimes there's cups. If those are plastic, they just go right into the landfill after being used once. So if they use glasses or mugs, that's a great environmental practice. You could ask them how are their toiletries dispensed. Some places use large containers that can be refilled instead of individual containers, and that's a lot more environmentally friendly because if a little bit is gone, those get tossed. Whereas if you're refilling them, it's a much more efficient use. You could ask them what energy saving techniques do they use. Do they have lighting or heating things that are energy efficient? And I'd also encourage you while you're at the hotel to not let your good habits from home slip. And that's things like turning off lights when you leave a room. You can turn down the thermostat in the winter or turn it up in the summer a few degrees. That makes a big difference. You can unplug appliances that you're not using. If the hotel has a microwave or a fridge that you're not using, just go ahead and unplug that and it doesn't draw energy. Okay, so there's a couple other areas where you can be green. You can be green in your food choices. Here, I would encourage you to choose local food and organic food. And the reason for the local food is that your average locally grown food travels about 57 miles to get to you, whereas non-local food would be about 1,500 miles. Well, just think about the trucks, the trains, the transportation is releasing air pollution. So if you buy locally, you're preventing all that. You're also supporting your local economy. It's a really neat thing. You're also eating within the season, so you kind of get to know your place a little bit. Another thing you can do in your food choices is avoid takeout, and that's simply because of the waste that is created from that. You can take your own reusable container if you're expecting a big meal, or sometimes people just have it in their purse or their bag, their own little plastic container to put leftovers in. And that way you're not using styrofoam or foil or anything like that. And if you're getting groceries for your food, bring your reusable bags. As far as waste, this is something to think about. When you're at sites, there's often a lot of brochures and freebies and things. Take what you need. Another thing to consider is before you go, using an electronic version and either putting it on your phone or if you have a PDA, just so you have the electronic version with you, or you can use it while you're at the site and then put it back in the brochure holder. Things like that make a big difference. I know the Natural Areas program, where I work, we go through thousands of brochures every year. So every little bit does help. The last thing on this slide is climate-wise, and I don't know if you noticed, but on the door as you came in, there's a little climate-wise sticker, and the Drake Center is a climate-wise partner. And what that means is the City of Fort Collins program where the city is encouraging businesses to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The businesses get wonderful things. They get a technical assessment, so they have a technical team come to their facility and give them ideas about how to save water and energy, be more environmentally sound. They also get public recognition, like what I'm doing here, and networking opportunities with other businesses. It's an award-winning program, and you can look on the fcgov.com/climatewise for a list of partners. And I also have a poster in the back that has a list of all the partners. The two ones that are accommodations in town are Best Western University Inn and the Armstrong Hotel. There's also many restaurants and breweries, and I'll talk about those a little bit. This ClimateWise program is very effective. I was amazed to read that the carbon dioxide that they've saved is equivalent to planting 6 million trees. 6 million trees, or 1 million round-trip trips between Denver and Fort Collins by car, or 88,000 airplane trips between Denver and New York City, or taking out of service 227,000 60-watt light bulbs. So a lot of great stuff going on. Okay, so I hope that gives you just a brief overview of some general tips of how you can take a green vacation, some things that you might do to be environmentally friendly. From now, we're going to go from some general things that I was talking about to some specifics. And Laura is here from the Gardens on Spring Creek, and she's going to talk about horticulture delights.
So the Children's Garden is just an incredible place for children to explore. They can just get out and get into so many different things. We have giant watering cans that they can pump water out of. We have secret gardens that they can hide in and explore and just find different little twig huts and teepees that they can go into. We have a fish-filled pond that they can cross on stepping stones or a bridge, and they love to visit with the fish, of course. We have the wild, weird, and wonderful garden with all kinds of interesting plants for them to check out. There are giant scarecrows, playhouses, and the Friendship Growing Garden, which is where the kids learn about growing food. So there is a lot for the kids to do in the Children's Garden. And like I said, for the adults who are there with them, it's just a beautiful, relaxing garden to walk through and to get ideas for your own home garden, of course. The latest garden that we put in is our 3/4-acre Garden of Eden, and that is our fruit, vegetable, and herb garden. Now, most botanic gardens don't have such a large edible garden. This is a little bit different. So why do we do that? Well, we've done that for 2 reasons. First, the produce from that garden is harvested and donated to the food bank for Larimer County. Last year was the first year that this garden was in production, and we donated over 1,200 pounds of fresh produce to the food bank for their clients. So we're pretty proud of that. But we also want to help teach the residents of Fort Collins about sustainable, edible gardening. And what a great way to learn about it, but to come and actually see these crops growing under your conditions. You know, our tough soil, our hot summers, you know, windy, everything like that. So that's why it's there. And you will see everything from vegetables and herb gardens and small fruits. And we have a fruit tree orchard. If you don't have space for all of that, we also have edibles planted in containers so that people can learn how to do that also. And we're hoping later this year, if we continue raising enough funds, to install an outdoor teaching kitchen that will be part of that garden. And that way we can take people through the whole experience, from starting your produce from seed, to transplanting, tending to your garden, harvesting, and then learning what to do with all that fresh produce, how to do healthy cooking and how to preserve that produce. So we're hoping by the end of the summer, the outdoor teaching kitchen will be installed. Then we also have a Plant Select demonstration garden. Some of you may not be familiar with Plant Select, but it is a program that is administered by CSU and the Denver Botanic Gardens. And its aim is to find plants, native and non-native plants both, that do really well here under high plains growing conditions. And they put these plants through some pretty rigorous testing, and if they show themselves to be able to grow here under our conditions, then they become a Plant Select plant. And you will actually see that on the tags in the nurseries when you go shopping. So this is a really good garden for people who are new to the area to visit, so that they can find plants that will do really well here in Front Range growing conditions. And that garden is right in the entrance as you walk up to our visitor center. You'll be walking through the Plant Select demonstration garden. Then the other garden that we have is the Lauren Springer Ogden Xeric Parkway Strip, affectionately known as the Hell Strip. Lauren Springer Ogden is a nationally known landscape designer and author who lives here in Fort Collins. Some of you may have her book. She has 3 books out, all of them just beautiful gardening books. And Lauren really started this idea of what do you do with this area between the street and the sidewalk. These are tough growing conditions in that area. Hard to water, hot, dry, pollution from the street. So she has really found this great palette of plants that will grow well under those conditions. And most of those plants can survive with minimal water to sometimes no additional water. And Lauren is really well known for her cutting edge plant selection. So you will see some plants in this garden that you may not see elsewhere, but be assured they will do well here, because she really suits the right plant for the right place. And that garden, it runs along Roland Moore Drive, which is just to the south of our visitor center. So that's definitely one not to miss, and it looks beautiful all throughout the year. So those are some of the gardens that you will see now when you visit us. And what do we have coming up in the future? We are working on our half-acre rock garden. We started this late last summer, hoping for completion by fall of 2010. That garden was designed by Kirk Fiesler of LaPorte Avenue Nursery right here in Fort Collins. And Kirk is a nationally known rock garden expert. And he and Maddie Weiss, a local landscape architect, have been doing the work on this garden, which we very much appreciate. And this is going to be an incredible focal point for the gardens. And it has berms built up on the side. We'll have a flagstone pathway running through the center of it that you can walk, sort of meander through this rock garden. The planted areas will represent the different ecosystems of northern Colorado. So we'll have alpine, subalpine, montane, foothills, and down to the plains. So you'll get to see this microcosm of all the different ecosystems of northern Colorado right in this rock garden. We are also working on the Great Lawn. You don't have to be a gardener to appreciate this one. This is going to be a community gathering spot. It is going to have a band stage, so we will be able to have a summer concert series there. It will be a place that can be rented out for weddings, family reunions, whatever you can think of. And it will, of course, be surrounded by beautiful gardens. So we're currently raising funds for that and hoping maybe by about 2011 to get started on the Great Lawn. We also will be having several natural areas, and these will be larger demonstration sites of the plants of the different ecosystems, such as foothills, prairie, and wetlands. And we have already started on the wetland demonstration site, so you should be seeing more work going on there this summer. And then Lauren Springer Ogden, fortunately, is doing another design and another garden for us. And that is another one we're hoping by about 2011, 2012 to have installed. And it's going to be called The Undaunted Garden, which is after her first and probably her most famous book, which really, she really pioneered the idea of the Western garden, still being a Xerica garden, but being lush and full and just beautiful. So she's going to be starting on that next year for us. So as you can see, there's a lot coming up still at the gardens, and each year we'll just continue to add, so there'll just be more time that you can spend there visiting us. So what else can you do at the gardens? Obviously, hopefully you're going to get inspired by all of our display gardens. We do stress plants that grow well right here on the Front Range, so that anything you see growing at the gardens on Spring Creek, you can go to a nursery you can buy, and you know you're going to have good luck growing it. Okay? So we want you to come and get ideas for your own home garden. Part of our mission too is to teach people about horticulture and teach you about gardening, because we want you to get outside and we want you to get involved in this. So we do have adult workshops all throughout the year, mostly in the winter and spring, take a little bit of a break during the summer, and then we pick up again in the fall. So we'd love to have you guys come and check out some of those gardening workshops. We cover things from design to pruning to container gardening, just any topics that we think will be of interest to people. Then we also want to get kids out there, and we want to get kids gardening. So yes, we do have kids programs. We have drop-in programs. We have 3-week-long programs that you pre-register for. Right now, our kids programs are starting as young as the age of 2. We want to get them involved early, and going up to the age of 12. So anybody out there with kids or grandchildren, we'd love to have you bring them by the gardens. They're really very, very popular programs, and the kids really do enjoy them. We also have community festivals throughout the year. We have coming up in June will be our Urban Gardening Festival. This is a 2-day festival. Obviously, by the name, you can tell it's to get people involved and educated about gardening in an urban setting. So that one will be June 5th and 6th. So I'd love to see you guys there. We follow that with the Harvest Festival in September, and that is a community celebration of the harvest, local foods, homegrown foods. And then our final community festival is actually in December, and that goes on the whole month of December. And that is our Garden of Lights Festival. And you can come through the gardens every evening and wander through and see our LED display of holiday lights. And then we also, of course, have volunteers at the gardens, because we are a small staff and we do need volunteers. So if you want to get out and do some gardening, this is the place to do it. We have social gardeners, and they work in our ornamental gardens. You can get out with other people and learn from each other. And we have the Eaton Effort, and the Eaton Effort volunteers are focused in the Garden of Eaton on edible gardening. So there's definitely opportunities for you to come out and help us in the gardens. So after you spend time with us, then if you leave your car behind, and you can walk or bike very easily, just about 1.5 miles up the road. You just head west to the CSU campus, and that will take you to Perk, the Plant Environmental Research Center. As I mentioned earlier, just like the gardens, Perk is free. Perk is open to the public during daylight hours. So what is Perk? What is their purpose? It is a research site for Colorado State University. And what they're doing is they are determining the best woody and herbaceous plants for Rocky Mountain gardens. So again, this is a great place for people new to the area who come here and just aren't sure what is going to grow well here. So this is a wonderful place to go visit. You're going to see, as I said, both woody plants and herbaceous plants, so it covers everything you may want in your garden. And where are they? They are located at 630 West Lake Street. So just north of Prospect is where you'll find Perk. After visiting there, because if you're like me, you haven't had enough of plants yet, you can head east to College and Remington. And I know we've all driven by this, and whether or not you've taken the time to stop, But if you haven't, it's a great place. And this is the annual Flower Trial Gardens. And this is, again, part of Colorado State University. And what they're doing here is they are testing new varieties of annuals and perennials. This is where they have hundreds of containers that the master gardeners plant each year with new annual varieties that have not yet been introduced into the trade. And what they're doing is they are evaluating these annuals for things like bloom time, bloom abundance, disease and pest resistance. And then these flowers get evaluated at the end of the growing season. And that information goes back to the growers and to the green industry, and it helps determine which annuals make it to the nursery for all of us to buy. It's just a way to make sure that the best annuals are getting there. So from Perk to the annual Flower Trial Gardens is just under a mile. So that's not very far. So you've gone from the gardens 1.5 miles, and then just a mile over to the annual Flower Trial Gardens. You can spend plenty of time outside enjoying those flowers, and then you can head back down just about 1.5 miles back to the gardens. So it sounds to me like a really nice way to spend an afternoon. Thank you all very much.
Good. My name's Dave Kemp. I go by DK. I'm the city's bicycle coordinator. And I'd just like to say thanks to the Environmental Program Series and to Zoe for including bicycling in this presentation tonight. I always like to have a chance to come out and talk to the public and really work to integrate bicycling into this community. We are known as a top 10 U.S. biking town, according to the League of American Bicyclists. We're a gold level bicycle-friendly community, which is big stuff in the realm of all the towns that are trying so hard to be more bike-friendly. So what I do at the city is I'm the liaison for the biking community to the city of Fort Collins. And I work with a number of bike groups in town and other city departments and other partners in the region to work on biking topics and issues and whatnot. But the purpose of tonight's presentation is I want to give you some insight pointers on biking around town and show you a couple fun places to go on a recreational level as opposed to transportation scope tonight. First of all, who has a bike in their garage or in their house right now? Okay, so it looks like just about two-thirds of the people here have bicycles. That's great. That's usually the case. Most of us do have bikes, and sometimes it just takes a little bit of care and maintenance to get those bikes up and running again, huh? Take the old spider webs off the spokes after a winter here, and put some lube on the chain, air up the tires, maybe take a look at your saddle, make sure it's comfy, and if not, get a new one, and then off for riding here. We're going to get into some bike education and safety things a little bit later, but first I wanted to talk about some of the fun places, some of the really pretty places to ride a bike. This is the Fort Collins bike map. This was produced in 2007, and we have a new one coming out here in 2010, a little later in the year. But for all intents and purposes, the information that you need to see is on this map right now. So, okay, you can see here I'm pointing on the bike trail. This is the Poudre River Trail right here, and it goes all along the Poudre River. If you can't ride your bike to the bike trail, there are a number of places where you can park. Say if you live out of town and the distance is too much, you're a beginner. There are a number of areas where you can park your car and take your bike off your bike rack or out of your trunk and hop on the bike and go tour the river area right here. And so here's Lee Martinez Park right here, right down there. You see that? There's a parking area right in here, yep. That's where the farm is, Martinez Park Farm. And then here is the main trail right here. And then right this little section right here where McMurray Natural Area is, it's not paved right there. However, it's pretty hard pack. And there are a couple of sections where you have to walk, but it's a really nice, secluded, kind of a secret little place to go visit. And a couple bodies of water right there. The river flows on the inside of the trail, up close to the trail. And it's a great place to take a picnic and go relax with your family or friends and enjoy the kind of the peace and the tranquility of that particular area right here. It's very wooded in that area too, so makes it extra special nice. If you were to head out west in the trail here, this is a nice, flat, steady, beautiful view of the mountains over here of Lowry State Park. I just love this view coming up the Poudre Trail here and looking out west, and you can see the top of the peaks, and it's really open and agricultural, and just puts you in a nice place. But this trail right here will take you all the way out to a really neat bridge that connects you with the Overland Trail, the road, Overland Trail Road. And it's a nice unparalleled view on the bridge of the river. And again, it's a really nice wilderness, I shouldn't say wilderness, but outdoor setting. Lots of birds. You're right on top of the river. You can look down into it, and it's just a great way to get across the river over to the Overland Trail Road there. From there are a number of options that you can go, and if you're interested, you can always contact me about where do I go from there? How do I get out to, say, Risk Canyon, or up to Bingham Hill? Spectacular views from up there, but it's pretty straightforward in the bike map. And you all have a bike map with you now, and you can take a look at that. And that's, Bingham Hill is a pretty good hill to ride your bike over. But for those people who are experienced cyclists, and that's why we have gears on some of our bikes, is to be able to go out there and really gear it down and take your time and go up and see those views. It's so rewarding. So if we're going the other direction here, coming down the Poudre River Trail, in this area. This is, going the other direction is really pretty too. And the Bike Library website, fcbikelibrary.org, has 3 interpretive brochures on there. There's a brewery tour, there's an environmental learning tour, and a historic home tour. But all along here, there are a number of really pretty natural areas, and I know that Zoe's going to talk a little bit more about this later on, so I'm just going to touch briefly on it. Here's the Nix area. This is all relatively new trail. It's all been replaced for the most part with concrete as opposed to the asphalt. The asphalt gets cracky and bumpy and it gets uncomfortable. So now it's been replaced with concrete. Parks Planning Department does all that work, the planning and finding the money. Do you know it costs $450,000 a mile for bike trail? But you compare that to how much a road costs, and it's pennies on the dollar. So, and way more fun, huh? Okay, so this is where, right here, this little junction on the map, and yet, like I said, this is all casual riding. This is all enjoyable riding. When you come to this little intersection right here, this is where the Spring Creek Trail and the Poudre River Trail meet. And so following along the Spring Creek Trail right here, along the Spring Creek, also very pretty. And you can go through Eudora Park here and see everyone out picnicking in the park and the kids playing. And it's a nice, gentle ride out west. And here's Spring Creek Park right here, and here's College. Now, fortunately, there's an underpass right there, so you don't have to worry about trying to cross College. And so continue along under College here. And here's another underpass right there, the street. And this is where, this one right here is where the Mason Trail and the Spring Creek Trail converge. Now, as of a couple months ago, there's an extension of the Mason Corridor Trail that goes here. That's been built. However, its terminus is right here at Prospect. There's a stop sign. Eventually, this trail will go all the way through CSU and then back into downtown, where it will be turned to bike lanes again and take you all the way to the Poudre River Trail again. We're looking very forward to that extension. That's going to be a nice way to get north-south in town without having to ride too much in traffic if you don't feel comfortable doing so. So let's go along the Spring Creek Trail right here, and here's Rolandmore Park. This is a really nice place to go through and ride your bike as well. And I should say over here too, there are a number of bike shops right here if you ever have any issues. And there's also another one right here, Lee Cycleway. And that's what all these little numbers on here are. They signify where bike shops are located currently. Okay, so who hasn't been to Spring Canyon Park? Okay, who hasn't been? Okay, so there's been some folks who haven't been there yet. What a fantastic new park that the city has, along with its partners in the community, has built. This is a fabulous park, fantastic views of the foothills, and also access to some of these natural areas by either walking or riding your bike. And this is, again, this is hard pack trails in here. So there are a couple hills, and if you can't climb them, no big deal, just get off your bike and walk it. But it's all gravel and easy to ride, and you can come along here and really get a taste of the edge line of the forest right here, and then all this of Dixon Reservoir here as well is really pretty. So you can do some loops in here and see a lot of wildlife too. Notice I've seen, you name it, I've seen it out there for sure. It's a great place for urban wildlife interface. Coming back over here now, another ride you can do. So let's say if you wanted to maybe park at Spring Canyon here and ride, down the Mason corridor. Like I said, this eventually will be the whole Mason corridor BRT, bus rapid transit project here. So you'll have a bus coming up and down this thing every 10 minutes, along with a pedestrian and bicycle trail along next to it. And talk about multimodal transportation. You get tired, you're done, you can bring your bike onto the bus rapid transit and take you to the next destination. But let's continue down the Mason corridor, because I want to show you another really nice park called Fossil Creek Park. Now you can see right here there are a couple interesting intersections that you have to negotiate. And until we get the funding to do underpasses or an overpass, this is what we have. So take caution around those areas and just go slow and use the crosswalks and you'll be fine. But right here, when you get past Harmony Road, there's a nice downhill that'll take you all over here to the Red Tail Grove. Now, Parks Planning, I know, is working on this connection. And this is coming up soon. They've received some of the funding for this connection right in here, which will connect you with the Kathy Fromm Prairie Trail. Now that's on its way. That's still being developed. So for now, we'll take you down an underpass, again, under College Avenue, so you don't have to worry about manipulating traffic here. Takes you down to Fossil Creek Park, and there's a couple really nice loops around the reservoir you can do. And again, just fantastic views of the mountains. You can really get some whitecaps from this park as well too. Lots of open space there. Now let's take a look at the power trail, and then I'm going to talk about bike safety, because I know I don't have too much time. I could talk with you all day today about bicycling in town and answer questions. However, I have to be succinct. So here's the power trail right here. Now, from a recreational riding perspective, there's all kinds of ways through these neighborhoods to get into this area. Here's the current power trail right now. This section from here to here will not be in place for a while. However, from Keeneland Drive south all the way to Trilby will be done this year. And so that's going to be a nice extension for people who live on this side to get over here on the other side over there. So we're looking forward to this one as well. But for right now, this is Garden Meadows Park. There's a little link right here that you can hop on McMurray and travel down McMurray and hook up with Keeneland. And if you can get from here through the neighborhoods here, you can go, this is a nice way, here's Keeneland. And then to McMurray, this has got nice wide bike lanes, 8-foot bike lanes, minimal traffic, crossing Harmony at the light, and then on to Golden Meadows Park. This is a great shot, straight north or south on the east side of town right here. And it'll take you right back to the Spring Creek Trail. And so that'll link you back up. So depending upon your ambition, you can either go for it and ride all day long and do big loops around the city, or you can choose just sections at a time and go out at a casual pace and enjoy yourself. But either way, there's a lot to do on a bike here in town, to go out and visit all these natural areas and parks, historic homes, the breweries, you name it, there's a lot to do here. And there's a lot of resources in the city to help you with it too. The city's bike website, fcgov.com/bicycling, is an awesome resource. It has information on what's going on locally. There's education and safety information. There's links to other organizations in town. We've got about 12 biking organizations in town and about 15 or so bike shops. And so there's a lot going on here, and that's why there's a bike coordinator in the city here to help coordinate all those activities. So that's it for the kind of the map demo of what's going on with where to go. And I just want to talk about riding first real quick, so you guys have some information with respect to education and safety. Of course, what's this? The helmet. You gotta wear a helmet out there. I mean, I've been biking for decades. I'm gonna knock on wood. And I've wrecked many, many times, but I've never hit my head. But I wear a helmet anyway because you just never know. You know, the likelihood of you not is pretty good. However, there are those occasions when things happen and you have no control about what happens. So protecting your noggin, your cantaloupe, the brain is very important, okay? And then when you wear a helmet too, I'm going to put it on for you real quick.
Oh no.
Does that mean I have 10 minutes left? Oh, good. Let's see here. So when you wear a helmet, make sure the strap, you've got a couple fingers in the strap, and you also want to make sure, it's kind of funny with this hat on, I know, but you want to leave about 2 inches above your eyebrows of where it should place. You don't want to wear your helmet like, you ever see that? You know, that's not the right way to do it, in case you did go this way. And you don't want to leave it too far forward. And you know, the helmets they make these days, helmets are very comfortable these days. It's not like the 70s, 80s, even the 90s. Helmets are lightweight, they're very breathable, and wouldn't you say they're a little stylish? Yeah, that's part of it, you know. You gotta find a helmet that you think you look good in, you know, and also protects your head too. That's the most important thing. The style is the second part. But wearing a helmet whenever you ride a bike is very important. And if you have children and you're riding and your children are riding in a trailer, you know, it wouldn't hurt. It would help them to also have them wear helmets too. Even though you think they may be safe in the enclosed bike trailer, get helmets on them if you can. I should just warn that the rest of the presentation seems appropriate. Okay, the bicycle. This is I call this my townie bike. It's my do-everything bike. You know, obviously it's set up a little bit different for me because I'm 6'5" and, you know, I'm a big person, but cruiser bikes can be townies. Your old 10-speed can be townies. You know, you can take those old bikes you have in your garage, if you do, and really make some easy conversions to get them back on the road. And one is replacing the handlebars, getting some handlebars that set you back a little bit and more upright. That's a great way to enjoy the ride, be more comfortable. And then also get a saddle, a new saddle that's comfy, that fits you. Sometimes you think the bigger the saddle, the more comfortable it's going to be. Not really. You know, you need to try out saddles. You can go to your local bike shop and say, I need to try out some seats that are going to fit my body style. And so those are 2 things that really make a difference. And making sure that your brakes work, and you've got air in your tires, and your chain is lubed. Those are all the things before you start riding that you want to make sure are working properly and are ready to go. Another thing is when you're out riding on the bike trail, be communicative with pedestrians. Sometimes you can scare people if you come up and, you know, and some people don't realize that, but it's, you know, a little frightening when a cyclist passed you by and you didn't see him coming, you know. So just be respectful out there and give them a heads up and say, hey, on your left, you know, and wave and be friendly and smile. That's very important too in terms of being a cyclist out there. Excuse me. And so if you're riding at night, what do you need to have? You need to have reflective clothing. You got to have lights. And I've got a couple different bike lights on here. And these are not so much for riding on the path at night. You want a light that's more brilliant on the front that really illuminates the whole trail and all the eyes, the wildlife on the sides of the road at night, sides of the trail at night. But for around town, there's enough ambient light that you can see where you're going. However, little things like this, these little lights right here, really help you with being seen. And the city has a Be Seen campaign where we work with our local partners and we purchase bike lights and we give them away to the public. So this year we will be giving away, again, more bike lights. If you need one, just let me know. And let's see here. I guess those are really the fundamentals of the bike that you need to make sure that you have going for you in order to stay safe. But I want to talk about riding on the streets and in the bike lanes. Now, I think it might be instinct, perhaps, that when you're riding on a road with traffic and you're in the bike lane, you think you want to be all the way over to the right-hand side, almost near the curb, and as if you can't even see me because you don't want to get hit by a car. Well, you really want to stand out. You want to be seen. You want to make your presence known. You want to ride predictably, no radical movements, and use your hand signals. Not like this, not the cool way, but you want to throw them out there and say, I am going left. Here I come. You know, or I'm going right. And actually, you can even do this if you want. That's legal now, you know, or use your other hand as well. So be predictable and use verbal and nonverbal communication. And when I say verbal communication, I mean respectful, verbal communication. Anyway. So yeah, when you're riding out there, really make your presence known. I can't say that anymore, and or I can't say that enough. And I think there was going to say something about when you come up to an intersection, what to do. And so if you are coming up to an intersection and you need to take a left, and you're in the bike lane, as a cyclist, you can get over into the lane. You can take the lane and get over into the left turn lane and wait at the light for the left turn arrow. Now, if you're behind a car, that's okay. But before you take your turn, before you enter in the intersection to take your left turn, let the car in front of you get ahead a little bit, because sometimes the person on the other side of the intersection who's going straight through will think that it's just that car and you're not behind it. And so let them advance out in front of you a little bit, let them take their left, and then make sure you use eye contact and make sure they see you and you see them and you take your left, so that'll avoid getting into an accident. Also, when you're riding your bike around the town, and try to stay on the bike lanes or in the travel lane and not on the sidewalk. The number one accident that occurs in Fort Collins is when people are on the sidewalk and they enter into an intersection from the opposite direction, called a broadside. And because the car, if you're the driver and you're at the intersection, you are looking to your left if you're going straight. You're not expecting someone to come off the sidewalk and into the intersection. And so that's the number one accident that takes place in town right now. That's part of why I'm talking about it right now, is to try to curb that behavior so we have fewer accidents of that type. Okay, there's also a 3-foot rule too, and motorists are required to provide at least 3 feet. I often find when running around town, people give me so much respect. And it's not because I'm like, hey, I'm out here, but I am present, there, and I'm not off to the side, and trying to be timid, or I'm not riding in stealth around town. I'm being communicative and I'm getting eye contact. And so when you are out there, doing that, you really want to make an effort to, like I said, be seen out there and can communicate with the drivers. Let's see. The 3-2-1 rule, which is a part of the 3-foot thing, is now if you're out in a recreational group ride, and we know we've had some problems with in the past, when you get a large group of people who are riding in a recreational group, they take over the road. And so Bicycle Colorado, a statewide advocacy organization, started the 3-2-1 rule, which is 3 feet to pass, 2 abreast, cyclist, 1 clear, and then go to single file when to allow passing. And so that's kind of on the bicycle education side of things and the motorist education, the 3-2-1 courtesy code has a really good message behind it. 3 feet to pass, 2 abreast, 1 clear, and single file to allow passing. Because you know when you're riding with someone up into the mountains and you know, you want to have conversation, you know, but so you always need to be conscientious of what's in front of you, what's behind you, a complete 360 understanding of everything around you. Now the shared lane markings around town. And this is the last thing I'll touch on here today. Now, the shared lane, or a sharo, is where both a motorist and a bicyclist can share the lane. So as a motorist, respect the bicyclist if they're in front of you. And as a bicyclist, you should be over as far right as practicable. And, but know that you have a place there too. So there's all kinds of other bicycle education and safety things that I can relate to you, but it's also available on our website too. So I think I touched on some of the main points. And if you ever have any questions about biking in town, please feel free to get in touch with me. I'd be happy to share resources of other local bike groups, a lot of other rec groups in town of all ages and abilities, from the professional cyclist to the, I've never been on a bike before and I want to do it. So it's all over. And I just want to thank you for your time, and feel free to contact me at any point. Thank you.
I'll introduce myself again. I don't think I told you where I'm from. My name is Zoe Wyman. I'm the Community Relations Manager for the city's Natural Areas Program. And the Natural Areas Program is the part of the city government that conserves land. So there's over 40 natural areas scattered around Fort Collins. And the Natural Areas Program is the group that manages those, provides trails, we do educational opportunities, parking lots, bathrooms, a whole bit. And that's all possible because of you all. The Natural Areas Program is funded by a citizen-initiated sales tax. So that means citizens put together a ballot measure. They voted to tax themselves to fund the Natural Areas Program. So that money can only go to the sales tax, only go to the Natural Areas Program by law. And we definitely thank you for that, because it's part of what makes Fort Collins so wonderful is all our natural areas around town. Okay, so this map that I asked you to grab one, shows where all the natural areas are. And there's a couple of features of this map I want to point out. The first one is the recreation chart. And this is a chart that lists all the natural areas and tells you what you can do there. So if you wonder, are dogs allowed there? Or can I ride my bike there? Or those kind of questions, it's all on this chart in one handy place. Then on the other side is the big map. And everything in green is a City of Fort Collins natural area. And we'll see there's some that are big, there's some that are small. They're scattered all around town. There is a pattern to our madness. It's not madness at all. The natural areas are clumped. You'll see they're clumped along the foothills. They're clumped along the Poudre River. They're clumped regionally and along the Fossil Creek drainage. And so since I don't have time to cover 40 natural areas, I thought that I would talk about these 3 kind of regions and highlight some of the places. The natural areas are purchased from willing sellers. And we do have these sort of targeted areas that the idea is to create corridors for wildlife and also corridors for recreation. And again, I want to remind you that the places that I'm talking about are all free unless I say otherwise. So I'll let you know. So the first place I want to talk about is the Foothills Trail. And the foothills are the hills to the west of us. They also can be called hogbacks, if you hear that term around locally. The Foothills Trail, or the foothills in general, are hilly. They're covered with this shrub here, which is called mountain mahogany. There also might be some ponderosa pine trees there. You might see this little bird. It's called a spotted towhee. It lives at the base of the shrubs. It kind of scratches around for insects. The Foothills Trail, I would say, is best in the spring and the fall. In the winter when it's dry. This time of year, the trails get really muddy, and in fact, some of these sites get closed because of the mud. In the summer, it gets very hot. There's not a whole lot of shade here, so this is sort of a seasonal place. The Foothills Trail is a great place to experience this ecosystem, the Foothills ecosystem. It links 3 natural areas: Reservoir Ridge on the north, then Maxwell and Pine Ridge, and also some other public lands along the way. It's 6.8 miles in total. It's very popular for mountain biking. It's great for hiking and horseback riding. Dogs are allowed there on a leash. I would consider this trail moderate to difficult because there is some climbing and it's pretty narrow and rocky. So I'd say if it's your first time on a mountain bike, this would not be a good place to go. But if you're an experienced cyclist, this would be great. And if you're a hiker looking for a workout, this is a great place. Because you gain some elevation, you get good views of the city and then also back into Horsetooth Reservoir. It feels like you're far away even though you're close to the city. So here's some details. This is the brochure for the Foothills Trail. You'll find this at Trailheads. It's also on the Natural Areas Program website. The trail profile is in the corner here, and you can see it gains about 500 feet. The route that I was going to tell you about has you parking between Maxwell and Pine Ridge on County Road 42C. And then if you're hiking, you would do a car shuttle up to Reservoir Ridge, the Mashad Lane parking lot. Or if you have a horse, you would do that. If you're cycling, you'll make the whole thing loop on your bike. So from there, you would go around Pine Ridge. So you're going to be parking here at the Maxwell parking lot off of 42C. And then you can go around the Dixon Reservoir at Pine Ridge. That's a beautiful reservoir with a very lush forest that's known for the variety of birds that have been seen there. It's very lush because of the water right there. But then you also go around this side, you're hiking through the grasslands and some kind of rolling hills. So it's a nice variety of terrain. If you take this trail, this is the Timber Trail, it goes up through, not very steep up, but just up a little bit elevation through the Ponderosa Pine Forest. And so you can make, about a 4-mile loop just in Pine Ridge itself. And then if you want to continue on the Foothills Trail, you'd go to Maxwell. Maxwell is the place where the A is, the big A that's painted on the side of the mountain. And so you go back behind Hughes Stadium, and then you climb up the foothill, and you come out on the other side of the ridge, and you can look into Horsetooth. Well, then the trail continues north into Reservoir Ridge, and you can come back down here to, that's the Mashad Lane parking lot. Let's see, up here. And that way you'd either pick up your car, or if you're on your bike, you'd bike down Overland Trail to where you parked. That's a great loop. From end to end, the Foothills Trail, so from the very north part of Reservoir Ridge to Pine Ridge is 6.8 miles. So depending on how much mileage you like to do in a day, that might be a great day trip, or you might break it up into several pieces. Another thing I just want to mention about Pine Ridge is it's really popular for fishing. There's steps going down to the edge of the reservoir. There's some benches, nice place to go fishing, and there's some picnic shelters that have just been installed at Pine Ridge. So some other foothills sites, if we're going south, we'll go to Kathy Frome Prairie. This is it's south of Harmony, between Shields and Taft Hill. And Kathy Frome, who this site is named after, was a city councilwoman who passed away from breast cancer, and she was very interested in conservation. And so soon after she died, this site was named after her. It's a beautiful grassland. It's interesting because this site has never been tilled. The ground has never been churned up by farming. So it's a pretty healthy grassland, which is fairly rare. The one thing I like about this site this time of year is that the trail is paved, so you don't need to worry about mud. It's also great if you have a stroller, if you use a wheelchair, rollerblades, anything with wheels. This is a great destination. One thing that a lot of people miss at Cathy Frome Prairie is the Raptor Observatory building, and that's this concrete structure here. The idea of this building was that it has a sod roof, so to a bird, it can't tell that there's people there. So it's a bird blind from the top so that raptors can't see you. And this site is popular with ferruginous hawks, red-tailed hawks, bald eagles, all kinds of raptors can be seen on Cathy Frome Prairie. Also in the shelter are interpretive signs that talk about the connection between eagles and prairie dogs. Bald eagles and other eagles eat prairie dogs for a majority of their diet. So that's an interesting connection. There's some tactile elements to the signs. There's one that makes noises. I'll let you discover those, but that's a neat part of Cathy Frome Prairie that some people miss. The trail here is about 2.5 miles each way, so that would be from Shields going west. It's a there and back route. It's about 2.5 miles each way. It's gently rolling, it's essentially flat, and there's some wetlands that you pass by too. There's also a recent book that's been written about this by a resident and CSU professor, Ellen Wohl, and it's called Island of Grass. So if you're interested, that's something to check out. We'll now keep going south to Coyote Ridge Natural Area. This is another site in the foothills. Do you see the deer peeking out of that picture? It's rich with wildlife. This site is open to hikers, bikers, and horses. Dogs are not allowed on this site. That's to provide a dog-free visitor experience and also to protect the sensitive resources. This is a map of Coyote Ridge and a trail profile. You will go on Taft Hill just south of the landfill, sort of between Fort Collins and Loveland. And you can take the first section of trail is a mile. It's flat, and you climb a couple foothills, and you come to a cabin. This cabin was built by the previous owners of Coyote Ridge. It was where they were going to retire. They didn't quite finish the inside of the house, so the deck is really the focus. The house just has some storage in there, but the deck is a beautiful place for a rest. There's some interpretive signs there, and there's also a 1/4 mile interpretive trail called the Hidden Clues Trail. It's wheelchair accessible, so we invite groups who need an accessible experience. They can drive in to the cabin and use that trail. So that's something to keep in mind if you're interested. You can also connect from Coyote Ridge to the Blue Sky Trail, and that's an over 20-mile trail that connects Laurie State Park and Devil's Backbone. It's amazing. If you don't want to do the whole 20 miles, if that's like for me, that's a little bit much for one day, you can go in at Coyote Ridge and do a section. Okay, so that was the foothills. Another clumped area where natural areas are is along the Cache-la-Poudre River, and that picture is what the river looks like about this time of year. There's a paved bike trail that DK mentioned that follows the river for about 10 miles, and here's some of the places on and near the trail you might explore. Gateway Natural Area is in the Poudre Canyon, so it's about 5 miles from Ted's place. You would take Highway 287, which is College Avenue, to Highway 14 or the Poudre Canyon Road. You'd go west on that, about 5 miles, and you'd come to Gateway Natural Area. It's a little bit off the highway, so you don't hear the highway noise. This site is, to me, a great place for a picnic. There's a lawn, there are several picnic pavilions, there's a section of river to either fish or go play and go wading, that kind of thing. It's popular for hiking as well. There's 2 hiking trails. One is the Black Powder Trail. It's very short, but it's very steep. It's about a mile, and it goes straight up the mountain, it feels like, when you're hiking it. But you come out, and this picture of the group hiking is on top of the Black Powder Trail. And you have views of the whole canyon. It's a really neat view, and to me, it's worth the climb. There's also an overlook trail. This is the most expensive place I'm going to talk about today. It's $5 to park. You can have as many people in your car as you want, and you can also have an annual pass at Gateway. Dogs on leash are welcome here, and it's a great place to hike, fish. It's a great place to get away. Popular summer destination when it's hot. So we're going to go downstream into the northwest part of Fort Collins. North Shields Pond is on Shields Street, just north of Vine. And it's connected to Sterling Natural Area. You can see them right here, they're right adjacent. North Shields Ponds and Sterling are popular for fishing. There's an accessible fishing pier, which you can see in the picture. There's also steps going down to the side of the pond to fish. There's a new picnic shelter. There's a new accessible parking space here. The trail is about 1.5 miles if you go around Sterling and around North Shields Pond. There's wonderful wild waterfowl viewing here, all kinds of ducks and geese and things. And if you're in Sterling, you can see the mountains and you just feel like you're really far away, but you're right in town. It's pretty special. Another new thing at Sterling is that the Natural Areas program has been cutting out Russian olive trees. That's a non-native tree that takes up habitat from other trees. And so it has a whole new look. If you haven't been there in, say, a couple months, go and visit because it looks great. It's different and much healthier ecologically. Continuing down the river corridor here, this is the complex of natural areas that DK was mentioning. He was talking about parking at Lee Martinez Park and going up into Salyer and McMurray natural areas. This complex of natural areas, you're about 6 to 10 blocks from downtown, but it's quiet, there's birds, there's trees, there's the rushing river, there's a bike path. It's just very unusual to have an urban area so close to such a neat natural place. You can access this Magpie Meander, McMurray, Salyer complex from a couple places. You can park at Lee Martinez Park and go on the bike trail. There's also several roads off of College that go there. So you can go in off of Woodlawn here, and there's a parking lot at Legacy Park. You can go in off of Hemlock, Hickory as well. Jack's Outdoor Gear is about right here. That's a common landmark that people use. And not shown here, but on your map, there is a connection between Magpie Meander and McMurray now. This is a place where you don't see a whole lot of people, and it's a little secret that we're telling you about. These ponds are great for fishing as well as the river. There is a boat launch at McMurray. You'll see it marked right around there. And so if you have a non-motorized boat like a kayak or a canoe, this is a great place to go. We also offer, the Natural Areas program offers river tours. We're going to do those once a month this summer. They meet at Lee Martinez Park, and we'll do those June 19th, July 10th, and August 19th. So once a month we'll offer a river tour, and I invite you to do those. All the programs that the Natural Areas sponsors are listed in a publication called Tracks and Trails. We have programs in May through October. They're all free. They're at all different natural areas. And if you'd like to be emailed when that is ready, the Natural Areas program website has a little email subscription service, and we're happy to keep you informed about that. Here's another Poudre River site, Riverbend Ponds Natural Area. You probably have seen this site if you've come into Fort Collins using the Prospect Road exit. You've driven right by it. There's several ponds here as well as a stretch of the Poudre River. It's a great place for a walk. There's wonderful fishing here, as well as a self-guided trail with posts so you can learn about the ecology of the area. It's about 3 miles of soft surface trail and boardwalks, all flat. Here's another site where Russian olive has been consistently removed, and the site is being restored to its natural state. There's 3 access points to Riverbend Ponds. Okay, so you can park off of Prospect. You can park off of Timberline. You take a little street called Cairns. Or you can park off of Shirley Street. And you can see there's lots of little loops, lots of ponds. There's the whole section along the river is forested. There's a big wetland. Just a neat place to explore. And it's part of this whole complex of natural areas here. From Riverbend Ponds, there's an underpass, and you can go into Cottonwood Hollow and Running Deer. Also wonderful sites. This little symbol here, Peak Finder location, at the bottom of your map is a view of the mountains, and it identifies all the peaks. Well, that is where the picture was taken. So it's from that perspective. That's what Peak Finder location means. Here's the junction of Spring Creek Trail and Poudre River Trail that DK was talking about. Here's our main office. Neat place to explore this little complex. This is Cottonwood Hollow, and I wanted to specifically mention it because it's such a wonderful birding spot. This was a gravel mine previously, and the way it was reclaimed was very purposeful to make it excellent bird habitat. It has a very gradual slope instead of a deep square slope that some other ponds have, and so it attracts wonderful shorebirds, water birds, really neat, and you can see birders young and old enjoy it. The signs here, the interpretive signs, also have won a national award, and the theme is an artist theme. So you kind of see an artist's notebook, and there's a little secret thing on the bench that I'll let you discover. Wonderful complex of natural areas there. All right, so I chose the butterfly for this slide because you're stretching your wings. You're going beyond just the natural areas in town, and we're going regional a little bit. So these are still pretty close by, but just a little bit further afield. Fossil Creek Reservoir Regional Open Space is famous for its eagles. The city's Natural Areas Program, we took over management of this site this year, and we're really excited about it. The Larimer County Rangers still have an office there and still will patrol, but the Natural Areas Program, we do most everything else there. There's a short paved loop at Fossil Creek Reservoir Regional Open Space. Now here's a very confusing thing. We also have Fossil Creek Reservoir Natural Area and Fossil Creek Wetlands Natural Area. So make sure you're going to the right place when you look at your map. And Fossil Creek Reservoir Regional Open Space is what I'm talking about. There's a short paved trail there. There's picnic shelters, and then there's also soft surface trails out to bird blinds. And the theme here is all about birds. Great bird watching any time of the year. In the winter, you're almost guaranteed to see bald eagles here. In the evening, they roost in the trees around. The signs have some interesting tactile elements. You can touch a bird beak and feel what the different shapes look like. And it's also the site of the Northern Colorado Birding Fair, which is a fabulous event that happens the last Saturday in September. This is an event where you can go on a bird walk. There's fun booths with hands-on bird activities. You can take a workshop or a seminar from an expert. It's a lot of fun, so keep your eyes open for that. There aren't dogs allowed at this site, so that's one thing to keep in mind if you're planning on going there. Fossil Creek Reservoir Regional Open Space, it's on Carpenter Road, which is also known as 392 or the Windsor exit. It's in the south part of Fort Collins. Now we're going to go to Bobcat Ridge, and the way you would get to Bobcat Ridge is you would take Harmony Road west, and it changes names. It turns into a county road, forgetting the name, and brings you to Masonville. And just west of Masonville is Bobcat Ridge Natural Area. It's a large site. There's about 15 miles of trail here. It has a valley with its grassland, some ponderosa pine forest, and also this meadow with the rock formations is called Mahoney Park, and that's a popular destination. There's also some beautiful red rock cliffs. There's a historic cabin and historic barn and other structures. So it's a neat place to see how people and nature work together. There's also was a fire at Bobcat Ridge, the Bobcat Fire of 2000. And so can make for some very dramatic photographs and also beautiful wildflowers in the spring. And I've been enjoying seeing how the site changes and the forest comes back after that fire. At Bobcat Ridge, we have a full suite of educational programs. We have an educator who actually specializes just in Bobcat Ridge. During May through October, we have 9 a.m. with a naturalist, which is every Saturday morning, different natural history topics at the picnic shelter at Bobcat Ridge. We have special programs for kids at Bobcat Ridge, and also night programs. So if you want to go on a full moon hike or look at the stars, Bobcat Ridge is a great spot. Okay, here's the map of Bobcat Ridge. The directions are on the top there. A popular hike is to start at the parking lot and go to the picnic shelter, which is just about a quarter mile. That section is paved, and then head to the historic cabin. So you'd go up this way and back. That's about a 2-mile round trip. The other neat thing about this trail is it's accessible grade. So it's a soft surface, but it's hard packed. So that's great if you use a wheelchair, that's a neat destination. You can also continue on here and this is called the Valley Loop. That's about a 4-mile loop. This side, the east side, is sort of through the grasslands, and then you're wandering through the ponderosa pine forest on this section. For cyclists, you might be interested in the Ginny Trail, and the Ginny and DR trails are named after the former owners of Bobcat Ridge, Ginny and DR Pulliam. So the Ginny Trail was specifically designed for mountain bikers, and it actually has some technical trail features, which means that there's some logs and steps and things that makes it exciting for mountain bikers to kind of play on. It's not open to horses, so that sometimes mountain bikers and horses, it's hard to have on the same trail. So at Bobcat Ridge, we have separated trails. The DR Trail is especially designed for horses. It's a little bit wider, it's gentle, it's designed with horses in mind. Cyclists are not allowed on the DR Trail. You could also go up the Powerline Trail, which sort of goes through the middle. If you want to do the big loop at Bobcat Ridge, it's about 12 miles, and I've done it. It's a great day. You start at the parking lot and go around the Valley Loop and do DR and Ginny Trail, and it's beautiful. You'll get to see Mahoney Park, walk through some beautiful forest, get some views back up to the mountains and the peaks. You can see the trail profile. It does gain some elevation as you're going up to Mahoney Park. It's a great place to be outdoors. Okay, Soapstone Prairie is another regional site, and this is the furthest afield place that I'm going to talk about, but I just couldn't resist Soapstone. It's such a special place. This is the city's newest natural area. It just opened last June. It's north of Fort Collins, about 25 miles. This site is 28 square miles large. It's huge. There's over 40 miles of trail. So if you're looking for something big, remote, almost pristine, Soapstone is your place. It's really a spectacular place. The photos don't do it justice. There's fantastic views, there's beautiful grasslands, there's cliffs, unique rock formations. There's a stand of ponderosa pine trees there that date from the 1400s. Soapstone is special not just because itself is large, but it's part of a conservation vision for this area called the Mountains to Plains Project. And this is a partnered conservation effort to conserve a wildlife corridor that goes all the way from the mountains to the plains. That way, wildlife such as elk, did you know that elk are a plains species in the winter? They would come down to the grasslands and the plains in the winter and then go up to the foothills in the summer. So animals like that, if they have a whole conserved corridor, can move as they naturally would. Partners in this project include Larimer County, which has the adjacent Red Mountain open space. Great Outdoors Colorado, the lottery funds, has been very supportive of this project. The Nature Conservancy, Legacy Land Trust, private landowners. It's a really neat thing. So when you're at Soapstone, you're actually part of a larger conserved landscape. This is the north parking lot. So another reason Soapstone is so special is all the recreational opportunities. There's 2 parking lots, a north and a south. I know we weren't that creative with our place names, but that you get the picture. The north parking lot is for hikers and cyclists. One thing I would suggest is taking the quarter-mile paved trail to the Lindemeyer Overlook. There's picnic shelters near the trailhead. That's beautiful, and I'll tell you a little more about what you're overlooking in a minute. The Towhee Loop is about 4 miles, and it goes through the mountain mahogany shrubs. You go up a canyon and then come out on the top of a ridge. Beautiful views, a very nice day trip. That Towhee Loop is open to hikers only. The Mahogany Loop is open to hikers and cyclists. It's a little bit longer, it's 7 miles. And on the Mahogany Loop, you pass through that similar mountain mahogany ridge and valleys, but there's also some beautiful rock formations on that. So if you're interested in geology, that might be a good one. And then you can connect to all kinds of trails from this as well. You can go on the Canyon Trail and then 40 miles of trail. So I'm gonna take a little diversion here and tell you about the Lindemeyer Overlook. Here's the pavilion that you would be hiking to. The Lindemeyer Archaeological Site is a National Historic Landmark. And the reason it got this very special designation is that it was the site of excavations in the 1930s by the Smithsonian that conclusively dated humans to North America to 12,000 years ago. Before the Lindemeyer site discoveries, people thought that humans had been here a much shorter time. So when you stand at this overlook, you are standing in the spot where people have been for 12,000 years. That's 600 generations of people have been there. It's a magical spot. It's very special. Another reason that the Lindemeyer site was so important is it gave archaeologists a broader view of the Folsom culture. That's the name of the people that the artifacts are tied to. And before the Lindemeyer site, archaeologists thought that Folsom culture was very simple. They had only found spearheads, and they thought, oh, these people, all they do is hunt. Well, at the Lindemeyer site, they found beads, scrapers, tools, a whole array of things that showed that this was a much more complex culture and really changed our view of what people around this time were doing. The beads are very fine. They had needles, they had decorative items. It's amazing. So I encourage you to visit this pavilion. There's some interpretive signs. Get a sense for why this is such a special place. If you'd like to learn more about the Lindemeyer site, a great place is the Fort Collins Museum, and I will tell you about that in a second. So let's move to the other parking lot. This is the big picture. We're going to talk about the south parking lot, and this is where horses and horse trailers use this spot. There's 17 horse trailer parking spots, and they're big ones that you can pull through. It's very tailored to horses and cyclists at this spot. And if you're a hiker wanting a long distance experience, this is a good place. There's 2 main trails that you can get to from the south parking lot. You can go on the Cheyenne Rim Trail this way, which it goes to the west. You would go through some rolling grasslands, and then you come to a view of the Big Hole. And that is the Big Hole. And a picture can really not show what the view is like, but it's an amazing view of a valley with hills and beautiful rocks in it. And I'd highly recommend getting to see the big hole. It's very special. And then, of course, you can connect. You can connect into Red Mountain Open Space, which itself is absolutely gorgeous. You can do the canyon trail across and connect into the trails on the east. From the south parking lot, if you go east, you can do the Pronghorn Loop or the Plover Loop. The reason that is dotted is that the Plover Loop is closed seasonally for grassland nesting birds. Another reason Soapstone is so special is because of the ecology. It's a nearly pristine grassland habitat. We found very few invasive weeds there. There's wonderful diversity of animals. There's animals like pronghorn, swift fox, black bear, mountain lion, rare prairie birds are found there. And there's even some endangered plants and rare plants found there. So I hope that kind of gets you excited to visit. One thing that we've found is that visitors tend to underestimate Soapstone. It's a very large site, it's very remote, and so I just remind you to be prepared for a wilderness experience. Bring more than enough food, water, clothing, have a trail map with you, and know that emergency response is an hour or more away. So you really are going to a remote place, which is wonderful, but you need to be prepared for that. We offer lots of educational programs at Soapstone, May through October. If you want to learn more about the Lindemeyer site, if you want to learn about the ecology, if you want to learn about the ranching history of Soapstone, lots of opportunities to do that. So here's the museum, the Fort Collins Museum and Discovery Science Center. You can see the pictures on the top there. Those are from their exhibit called The Discovery. And it's all about the Lindemeyer Archaeological Site. In celebration of Soapstone's opening last year, they put out some new artifacts that have never been displayed before. This is the largest collection of artifacts from the Lindemeyer site outside of the Smithsonian. So if you're not going to make it out to the Smithsonian, see the Fort Collins Museum exhibit. It's very good. And now we're transitioning into cool museums and things to do there. There's some other exhibits at Fort Collins Museum and Discovery Science Center that you'll want to check out. There's one called History Floods Fort Collins. It's not just about the water kind of flood, it's about a flood of memories, a flood of people, floods of technology, all kinds of different themes of the story of Fort Collins there. There's also one called Bright Ideas, which is all about electricity. It has some fun things you can move and play with and get a sense of how electricity was important to people. The Fort Collins Museum and the Discovery Science Center used to be two organizations, and now they've merged. So we have a unique institution that's both cultural and history of Fort Collins and also hands-on science. They're actually building a new building. It will be near Lee Martinez Park at Mason and Cherry, and they're scheduled to break ground this year. So I hope you check that out. It's a very exciting project. The Museum and Discovery Science Center have a lot of events. They have special spring break events. They're focused on dogs. It's called Doggone Fun. And they have a free day once a month, which is March 21st, the next one. Most Saturdays at 11 a.m. they have a program, and that could be everything from the Star Lab to Meet the Animals to Trolleys and Tracks, which is about the railroads and trolleys in Fort Collins. They're open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 5, and it's $4 for adults and $3 for kids. Okay, here's maybe the most unusual museum you've ever heard of, the Garbage Garage. They like to say, who says learning about trash can't be fun? So you wanted off the beaten path and you wanted environmental, the Garbage Garage. This is your place. It's fun and educational. They love to talk trash there. You enter this through a mountain of trash. It's a hallway where you see all kinds of trash, and you learn about what happens to waste, how recycling happens. There's a kitchen and a garage area which talks about hazardous things in your house that you should be aware of. They have scavenger hunts for kids. They have classes for adults. The one here is a bead making class using recycled materials. They have some picnic tables outside. They have a bouncy kids area, playground cover that kids can play on. It's fun for all ages and it's free. And they're open on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays from 10 to 2. That would be, I think it's a very fun place to check out. You also might want to learn more about farming and where our food comes from. And the farm at Lee Martinez Park is a great place to do that. They have farm animals on display that you can meet. They also have a farm museum with different artifacts about farming from the 1900s to the 1930s. You can test your farm strength by trying to lift a bale of hay. That's a lot of fun. They have pony rides. You can schedule a hay ride in advance. And you can also adopt an animal and help take care of the animals there. It's $2.50 to enter the farm. And they're open Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 4, and Sundays, noon to 4. I also promised I'd talk about some restaurants and grocery stores. And you could think about, well, we talked about where your food comes from. Now you get to taste, the actual farm products. And the restaurants and grocery stores here that I listed are all ClimateWise partners. And the ones with the asterisks are participating in something called Great Plates of Fort Collins. And that's a celebration the first 2 weeks of March where the restaurants downtown offer specials in the evening. So that's a lot of fun. The other new thing this year with Great Plates is the downtown, they have a First Friday gallery walk. So every first Friday of the month, there's a self-guided tour of the galleries. Well, in March, some of the galleries are offering art on plates. So it's Great Plates. It's art on dinner plates as part of the whole Great Plates theme. These definitely aren't the only environmentally friendly restaurants in Fort Collins, but I encourage you to go to these. They're actively working on their environmental things. And you can also ask restaurants about their environmental practices and help me expand this list. Fort Collins is famous for its breweries, and these 5 are the ones who are participating in ClimateWise. They all offer free tours at various schedules and things, and as DK mentioned, the Fort Collins Bike Library has put out this little brochure that's a self-guided tour by bike of 3 of the breweries. 2 that I want to mention are Anheuser-Busch. They just recently began to compost the food waste from their cafeteria, and they've diverted 4,500 pounds of food per month from the landfill. Excellent. And another one, New Belgium is sort of famous for their environmental stewardship. They use solar panels, and one of their recent accomplishments is that they doubled the recycled content of their beer packages. So go breweries. A lot of fun to tour these. There's also farmers markets are a great way to enjoy the fruits of our land. There's a winter's farmers market, which is 2 times in March. This is held at the Opera Galleria downtown. It's on March 6th and March 27th. And they have 40 vendors participating. So this is a large farmers market, and they're selling late season produce, meats, eggs, mushrooms, cheese, wine, salsas and sauces, baked goods. They have face painting for kids. They have live music. It's a really fun atmosphere. And then we have 2 farmers markets that happen more during the summer season. One is just right out here on Drake Road, and that's Sundays. It starts April 17th, which is right around the corner. That goes 11 to 3. And then in mid-June, they add a Wednesday. There's also one in Old Town Fort Collins at 200 West Oak. That is the Larimer County office building. That's Saturdays 8 to 12, and that'll start in June as well. One way that you can tie all of these destinations and more together is through the Spring Break Passport. And this is a project that all the organizations listed here have gotten together, and they each have a page in a little passport. And if you go to these places and get your passport stamped, you're eligible for prizes. So if you go during spring break, which is March 15th through 21st, at any of these organizations, you can get your passport and answer questions, do fun activities, and earn prizes. And so we have covered a lot of ground here. Really, I just touched on some very introductory ideas and maybe got you excited about some new places to go. Fort Collins is very rich with many fun and environmentally friendly and inexpensive things to do. I hope that whether you're going to ride your bike through natural areas, if you're going to tour gardens, visit natural areas, go to a museum, take in a brewery, I hope that you're prepared for a great staycation.